should I say buongiorno? And just Italian. Look at me being terrible right off the bat. Welcome to our second week, our second leg, I guess you should say, of our Italian vacation summer block party. Last week we talked about all the sightseeing you can find, looking at old churches with Michele Soave's The Church. This week I gave you a hint in the last video. It was a terrible hint, so I'm sure none of you got it. But when you're traveling abroad, as I often have, never done, you want to eat the local cuisine, but sometimes you need a good American junk food night, and that's what we're doing tonight. Because we're talking about a Dario Argento movie. See, the Suspiria shirt makes sense now. But we're not talking about the local highlights such as Deep Red or Tenebrae, Suspiria. No. We're going American, baby, because we're talking about his first and what may have been his only American film, Trauma, from 1993. We'll get into our souvenirs for this week later. This movie, though, again, like I said, Trauma, 1993, written and directed by Dario Argento. This time starring his daughter, again, Asia Argento, Piper Laurie from Carrie. Brad Dourif has a small uncredited role in the movie. And this is essentially Dario Argento's first American Giallo. For those of you who are uninitiated, Giallo movies are essentially murder mysteries. There's a gloved killer killing people. We gotta find out who it is. And I probably could have talked about any of those. The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Was it Black Flies on Gray Velvet? Don't Torture a Duckling. There's a lot of great Giallos. Even other lesser known Argento Giallo. The one he released a couple years ago was like kind of his return to form with Dark Glasses. Was super fun. Trauma is it's a little complicated. And by a little, I mean this movie is a lot complicated. So what we have with this movie is a young man who he draws the background cartoon, like illustrated images on like news. I guess before they had TV screens. He draws those. And he runs into a young 16-year-old Asia Argento, and she is trying to get away from her parents. Meanwhile, there is a killer on the loose, and the only thing more complicated than the plot of this movie is our killer's weapon, because he is removing the tops of the neck, keeping it YouTube friendly, baby. And he does so with like a giant like hand. It looks like the handle of a lightsaber with like RC buttons and a metal cord. He wraps it around your neck and so slowly cinches the top part off of people. Which is like, I mean, I don't know how many different ways there are to actually perform that act, but I feel like there would be less complicated ones than like building like a battle bot to do it. But so she is on the run. She gets taken back to her parents. Her mom is played by Piper Laurie. Her dad is by this man who kind of looks like the real life version of whatever they were doing with Jared Leto's makeup and hair in that Gucci movie. Her mom is a psychic, and just as she's getting ready to reveal the killer during a thunderstorm seance, the lights go out, and unfortunately her mother and father are both decapitated, we'll say. dropped out, and so now she's on the run because she is probably she may have to go back to this psych ward that we thought maybe because she's crazy, but actually it turns out because uh she is bulimic, which is why I'm not sure necessarily why. I mean, there's a lot of talk about what bulimia is and how it relates to trauma. Doesn't really come into any kind of factor about removing domes. So I'm not sure why the movie is super focused on that. Also, there's a lot of ick factors in this movie, and be warned, I'm warning you now. It's not really one I recommend. She is 16 in the movie. She is in the movie that her father has written and directed. There is female nudity in the film, which is super icky. Because of least of all her age. At least of all, it's her dad filming it. Secondly, also her age. More importantly, her age. But she ends up with this guy who's much older than like they actually do fall in love again, which is like weird. No, it's not okay with that. There's a lot of twists and turns. Brad Dourif is in the movie, so there's a good chunk of the movie where you think he's the killer. And I am going to spoil this because again, it's not really a movie I highly recommend. Turns out her mother faked her own decapitation. Because it's her mother who is the killer. And the reason the people she has been murdering are all nurses, and Brad Dourif is the doctor. She was at a clinic and was pregnant, had a babe, was having a baby. Hold on. During an electrical, that's the other thing. During the electrical storm, because the serial killer only kills when it's raining. I'm assuming so that they can amp themselves up by listening to the Garbage song. That's for all of you old people like me who get that joke. She's having a baby during the thunderstorm, and the baby's name is like, it's something like Kevin. And while the doctor is using the forceps to remove the baby, there's a giant like lightning strike and thunderclap, and it startles him, and he clamps too hard and decapitates Kevin. Which is just the most insane thing you could possibly imagine happening in this movie. Well, also because of the way it's filmed and because Piper Laurie won't stop screaming the name Kevin, making me think of Home Alone, was at no point not hilarious. But again, it's just so weird, and so she's doing all the killing. It was weird that the music. This is like one of the movies that Goblin doesn't do the music for. It was some other composer. It's fine. It's a very American, what you'd expect from like a '90s thriller. So there's not a whole lot of pizzazz to it. Really, the coolest part of the movie is Tom Savini did all the prosthetics and fake heads. So the fake heads look great, and then when we like have to like do hero shots, it's clearly like people's heads in the floor with like appliances applied. There's even a really cool scene at the end where our killer is thwarted. Where if you watch the interview with Tom Savini, he talks about how because Piper Laurie is claustrophobic, they couldn't make a cast of her head, so they faked her head, or how they did her head rolling across the floor. There's a wild one where with an elevator. So again, it's not a movie that I recommend because there's a lot of ick factor to it. But it is so wildly bizarre to see because the story's so weird. And to be like, we're just lopping off heads, and then you find out why, and it's absolute anarchy. It's just absolutely insane. Again, obviously, this is a big reason why nobody talks about this when we're talking about great Argento movies, and he does have great movies. but I was like, we gotta talk about this one, especially after watching it. I was like, I can't not talk about this movie because it was so wild. So let's get into this week's souvenir, and it comes to us from Vinegar Syndrome, and that is their Blu-ray version of Trauma. I actually picked this up on like a $10 sale, mostly because it was Argento. I'm trying to get a lot of Argento stuff. It is a beautiful transfer. It looks great. Um, it's just a movie that, again, I probably wouldn't go back to. Maybe with like some friends. But you gotta warn and be like, hey man, there's some pretty messed up stuff in this movie. And I mean behind the scenes messed up stuff, not just in the movie. So I don't recommend it. I don't think it's one that you necessarily need to see. But next week I'm super excited. Because we've been doing a lot of traveling. We've seen a bunch of churches. We've had our junk food, and we've seen a lot of wild things that there are to see. Time to relax. And what better place to relax than we'll take it a nice evening at the cinema. Go see a movie. But what if there are monsters in the movie? I don't know. We'll figure that out next week. Until then, make sure you like and subscribe to the Movie-Club Emporium. Go check out our Twitch page because we do monthly Twitch streams. And I will see you guys next week at the movies. Ciao.